Yes, we are EAGLES, Eagles, every day here on Birds 365. That's why we call it Birds 365. You could have figured that out by the name of the show, but I guess I just confirmed it for you. Yeah, we're talking all Eagles today because in case you're just tuning in, they got a big game coming up on Sunday against this team called the Dallas Cowboys, which we know quite well in this town. Here to chop it up with me for the next hour in for Johnny Mack is Bill Colarulo. John Machota from The Athletic is going to join us in less than 20 minutes from now. All right. After the 49er game had ended, after the Eagles had taken the beatdown they had taken, after all the post-game stuff here on JAKIB and Darius Slay not liking the fact that Seth Joyner pointed out that the Eagles didn't tackle real well against the 49ers. What was Seth saying that wasn't accurate? 24 hours later, after you get the beatdown out of your system, give us the reason that Bill Colarulo is optimistic about the Eagles' chances this week going into Dallas, because you're usually a pretty optimistic guy, Billy C.
I am usually optimistic, and it's good to be here, Jody. I love spending some Friday with you on a football Friday. But look, it's hard to be optimistic because it wasn't just one game, and that's kind of what I was saying on my show. Is this isn't just an overreaction to one game. You look at that defense, and it's been a problem for the last 5 or 6 games. So it's tough to be overly optimistic, especially tough spot, road game, Dallas. But if I'm looking for a silver lining here, we've seen Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni usually able to bounce back from adversity. You and I talked about that before when I was on Bird 365 a few weeks ago. But they've never had a bounce back from this much adversity, in my opinion. We've never seen them get beat the way they just got beat on Sunday against the San Francisco 49ers. So where I find my optimism is we're going to learn a lot about this team. We thought this team had Super Bowl aspirations. I still think they do. You're going to find out a lot about them on Sunday night because how do they respond to that ass whooping they just took from the 49ers? And there's no denying they got beat on both sides of the ball, both lines of scrimmage, every single level. They were beaten by that Niners team. And I know it was a tough spot. We can make all the excuses. Niners had more rest. Doesn't matter. So I think now at least we will know where we stand with this football team because there's been a lot of debate. They haven't blown anybody out. They're not playing well, but they keep winning. Well, I think we'll learn a lot about who do we have as a football team in Philadelphia when the clock strikes 0 Sunday night.
You mentioned the last 5 or 6 weeks. I'd certainly draw the line at 5 because 6 weeks ago they played what I thought was their best defensive game of the year. Miami came in as the number 1 offense in all of football. They held them to 17 points and under 250 yards. So defensive effort that day was certainly fine. So if you
there was a buy in there. There was a buy in there. That's why I say 6 weeks.
Okay,
it was 5 games.
You.
Yeah,
all
5 games.
I got you. 5 games, 6 weeks. Well, if before that they were okay, then of course the one kind of inexplicable loss to the Jets, but they were 5-0, lost to the Jets, beat Miami, best defensive effort. Thereafter, major defensive problems, as you just pointed out. Who are we pointing the finger at? Who is there an individual? Is there a group that you go, yeah, this guy's just either gone backwards or was playing over his head or overrated? If the defensive drop-off has been that precipitous, who's that on?
I know that as fans and analysts, we always love to point the finger at the coaches. They got to do this. They got to blitz more. They got to change things up. They got to have adjustments at halftime. I put a majority of this on the personnel in that back 7. I think if you look at that 49ers game, Sean Desai tried everything. They came out in 5-man fronts, 4-man fronts. They tried nickel. They tried dime. They tried to blitz. When they blitzed, it doesn't work. Purdy's stats against the blitz were unbelievable in that football game. Yep. So I look at the back 7. We know how good the defensive line is for this Eagles team. I wish the edge rushers were a little bit deeper. You and I have talked about that before. These guys, Sweat and Reddick, are playing a lot of snaps, but they still have a very good defensive line. Obviously, linebacker was a problem, but what I really have been concerned with is our secondary. And I'm not ready to write off Darius Slay and James Bradbury and Kevin Byard and Reed Blankenship, but they have to play better. There is no denying these guys have to play better and have to play to the caliber that we expected them to, This is the reason why Howie Roseman, whether you agree with it or not, doesn't value the linebacker position, because his mindset is we're going to have really good corners, we're going to have a great defensive line, and then we can kind of fill in the linebacker and safety position with other players. But when your corners aren't playing to Pro Bowl levels like we need them to play,
like they're being paid to play.
exactly. And then it has a ripple effect throughout that defense. But that's why I said we're going to learn a lot about this team, because you mentioned Seth Joyner calling out Darius Slay and Slay retweeting it. And that's what I love about Seth. I had him on my show, man. He don't back down. And he said it. Look, the eye in the sky doesn't lie, Slay. So I think you're going to learn a lot about these guys. And I do expect them to bounce back, Jody. I really do. When you get dominated like that, when you're getting called out like that, I expect these guys to respond on Sunday night.
You're right about the two corners. And I'm not saying I'm same as you. Oh my God, they got to get new corners. No, Bradbury and Slay are their corners. They're going to ride or die with them. Certainly this year, we'll see about where everything is at the end of the season. But they're expected to play to a specific level because of their previous performance and their paycheck. And I know people hate when you say that. Doesn't matter. Once he signed, he makes whatever he makes. No. In a capped world that keeps you from doing potentially other things because you decide to put that much money into two very good corners, Pro Bowl corners, all-pro corners, then you expect them to play to that level, and they haven't. And we I think sometimes are reticent to point that out because we don't want to think about it. When your all-pro guys aren't getting it done, you know you're in trouble, and that has been the case.
Yeah, and remember, Jody, it's not like Bradbury and Slay are playing on the final years of a contract they've had for a while. Both these guys got new deals before this season. So the Eagles did expect them to keep playing at that high level, or they would not have given them the money they gave them.
Correct. This week they have to deal with CD Lamb. And CD plays between 55 and 60% of his snaps in the slot, which means Bradley Roby's going to have, I said to John earlier, just cutting CD from 191 to 148 isn't enough for me. If he gets 148 yards, I think the Eagles are still going to lose. So Bradley Roby has to be better than that. Last time they played at the very end of the game, last possession, even after two massive penalties in the last possession, last 40 yards where they started at their own 14, Darius Slay said after the game, I told the defense, I got him. I'm taking him. We're switching up the defense. We're going to go mano a mano. Did they do more of that? Even though you and I both just said Bradbury and Slay actually need to be better than they've been, do you think they'll go Slay one-on-one if they feel that CD Lamb is abusing them out of the slot?
It's interesting because I went back and looked at the numbers because I wanted to see what did CD Lamb do against certain players, because we know he had 11 catches for 191, but where did he pick up all those yards? And it was kind of spread out. Against Darius Slay, he had 4 catches for 62 yards.
Oof.
Never went up against James Bradbury. Did not go up against JB in that game. He had 1 catch for 9 yards against Zach Cunningham. 0 catches against Reed Blankenship. Was targeted twice, but no catches against Reed. 2 for 35 against Sidney Brown. 3 for 65 against Eli Ricks. 1 for 20 against Kevin Byard. So, I mean, it was really spread out throughout. So I don't know what the Eagles do. Do they have Darius Slay follow him around? Do they try JB again in the slot? I didn't love that when they did that earlier in the season. But I'm not sure what Sean Desai dials up. But what I'm thinking, if I'm Sean Desai, is, look, let's make someone else beat you. I know they have other guys on that team. Ferguson at the tight end position was a problem last game as well. But let's try to make someone else beat us. No one is on the same level as what CeeDee Lamb has been this season. Make them go to Brandon Cooks. Make them go to Michael Gallup. Make them throw it to Tony Pollard. But let's take away CeeDee Lamb. Does that mean that you bracket coverage a little bit, have someone over the top at all times? I'd like to see it just to take him out of the game and force someone else to try to beat it. Easier said than done, I know. But they don't have a Devontae Smith on the other side like the Eagles do when teams try to take away A.J. Brown. There's a major drop-off after CD.
One thing I can guarantee you, these were the Bill Colarulo calculation. What do you have CD getting against Slay last time?
He was targeted 7 times. He had 4 catches for 62 yards.
4 for 62. I guarantee you Slay says your calculations are off because
well, these aren't mine. These are
he
pro
never
football.
gives up anything. According to Slay, no one ever catches a pass against him. It's the zone, and it wasn't his responsibility. Don't know how you figure it was me on him.
Pro football
all over a guy and go, no, that wasn't necessarily my responsibility. So they do play more zone than anything else. So it's usually an in-between, and who really had the coverage on that play. I guarantee you Slay says, yeah, it might have had 1 catch against me.
Yeah, these are Pro Football Focus's numbers. And look, I know some people get angry at Slay. I didn't love that he responded to Seth Joyner, and I liked what you, Douglas, basically said is, look, have some respect for the guys who paved the way for you. Seth Joyner is Philadelphia Eagle Hall of Famer. If me or you, Jody, is saying stuff about Slay and he wants to get angry, okay, I could take that.
Mm-hmm.
But you're talking about Seth Joyner, a Philadelphia Eagles Hall of Famer. Take it, shut your mouth, and just be better. But when you're talking Darius Slay as a guy who never thinks he gives up, I don't mind that personality in your corner. You want these guys to have egos. You want these guys to have short memories and line up for the next play. So I don't like that he's retweeting at Seth Joyner, but I don't mind Slay's personality in that he's constantly saying, hey, I can cover anybody. Nobody's getting catches on me. That's a good mentality sometimes as a corner in this league.
I don't mind him actually disagreeing with Seth. I disagree with Seth on certain things. There are certain things where I go, come on, Seth, it's 2023. You got to jump into the here and now. But when he's right, he's right. And he was right in what he said the other day. So Slay was just defending himself out of the fact that he didn't want to listen to it. He didn't want to hear it. He didn't actually take into consideration the point that Seth was making, which was dead on accurate. And again, it's all opinions. Slay's got his, Seth's got his, I got mine, Billy C's got his. We can all have opinions. They're not always going to line up exactly the same. But yeah, I thought Seth hit that nail right in the head. All right. Need your take on this. We got John Machota's going to join us coming up in 5 or 6 minutes because it's been an ongoing topic of conversation since Monday. The Eagles decided to play Kenny Gainwell more snaps than DeAndre Swift in the game on Sunday. And there are varying reasons for it. John and I debated a little bit how important running backs' ability to pick up a pass block is. It's important, but it's down the list for me. And if that's something that Kenny Gainwell does better, okay, fine. But then they only kept him in to block 1 in 39 snaps. Played 39 snaps. Was in for pass protection on 1 of those 39. So how important can it really be? I've seen Kenny Gainwell his entire career here. I've seen the 11 games that DeAndre Swift has played. I can't think of a reason that Kenny Gainwell would ever or should ever get more snaps than DeAndre Swift, and he surely did in that game the other day. What were the Eagles thinking in your estimation? And Sirianni's asked about it. He sticks to his "this is what we do" speech. Well, if what you do didn't work, don't you think about changing what you do, Coach? Why do you think they ran Gainwell out there as often as they did?
I don't get it, Jody, and I agree with you, man, 100%. And I just don't think they know what's going on sometimes in that running back room. I don't understand how for games at a time that you just can ignore one of your best playmakers on this team in DeAndre Swift. And it's just so frustrating to me because you heard Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni at their press conferences this week say things that we've been saying now for weeks watching these games, which is, yeah, we need to do a better job of committing to the run. Yeah, we need to do a better job of getting DeAndre Swift opportunities. And then I think it was Brian Johnson who said that when you're not averaging a lot of yards per carry, it only takes 1 long run to change that. Well, that's what we've been saying, especially about DeAndre Swift. This guy has the ability to hit a home run every time he touches the football. Look, Kenny Gainwell, he's an NFL player, has had some success with the Eagles the last couple of seasons, but he's not DeAndre Swift. He doesn't have that home run potential that you have with Swift. And that's what made Miles Sanders so good with this offense last year, is he had that ability that if he hit a hole, he could take it to the house. He could get a big run that changes everything. Look what happened in the Buffalo Bills game. They ignored the run in the first half, gave DeAndre Swift 3 carries the entire first half. They come out in that second half, and what sparked the entire offense? A nice 30-yard run by DeAndre Swift. And after that, offense really got going. So I don't understand why you're giving Kenny Gainwell all of these reps, because it also, you look at it from a defense perspective, they're not as scared about Kenny Gainwell as they are about DeAndre Swift. They know they need to account for DeAndre Swift because of that home run potential. So, look, they said all the right things this week, Jody. Sirianni said it. Brian Johnson said it. Sirianni brought coffee out to the guys with the sign, run the ball. But are they actually going to do it? I think they will this week. I think they're starting to see that this is a problem, that they are making themselves one-dimensional, which makes it really easy for a defense to stop. So I expect a big day from DeAndre. And I looked at the numbers, Jody. The only game where they gave him double-digit carries in both the first half and the second half was that Vikings game back in week 2, and Swift put up 175 yards. Outside of that, you look at the numbers, they have literally ignored him for halves at a time. In over, I think it was 12 out of the other 22 halves. So you remove the Vikings game, like 12 out of the other 22 halves of football, this guy had less than 6 carries in a half. You got to give this guy more opportunities, especially behind that offensive line. And what I'm really hoping happens this week is that they say to their offensive line, look, we're going to challenge you guys this week. Everybody's saying we need to run the football. We're saying we need to run the football. We're going to run the football. We need our offensive line that's supposed to be, and I still think is, one of the best in the NFL, to really have a great game in the running game this week. So I'm expecting them to do it on Sunday night.
And one narrative that I'm sorry I just wasn't buying that I heard this week from guys with eagle-colored glasses on. Oh, well, DeAndre Swift has never run the football this much before. He's on pace to break his all-time most carries. So they're pacing him so they don't lose him. You can't say that on one hand and then be putting Barnett and Sweat out there. Not Barnett. Hassan Reddick and Sweat out there as many snaps as you are. If you've got a great grasp on the big picture, that you've got 17 games to play in the regular season and then however, and we must be careful with how we put them out there. That's the way you're going to manage your football team. That's fine. But you can't go, oh, we can't run DeAndre Swift into the ground, but then go, yeah, Hassan, get back out there for another 80% of the snaps. He could run out of gas too. And oh, by the way, I do think you saw both of the defensive ends start to run out of gas in the second half of the game of that game against San Francisco, which is a little bit scary. All right, he's Bill Colarulo, filling in for Johnny Mac, who took off. He's got a Sirianni session that he's got to get to today. We're going to get to a Dallas perspective next. Yeah, that's right. We look at it through eagle-colored glasses most of the time here on Birds 365, but we like to give you a little balance as well. We go behind enemy lines. And one of the best guys to cover the Dallas Cowboys day in, day out. He does it for The Athletic. John Machota going to join us next here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game